So the question I have, I'm going to give a little background. The electric grid in the U.S. is antiquated. What I've seen in suggestions, in parameters of 100 to 40 years to 100 years out of date in many areas of the country. Here in South Dakota, here in Yankton County, most of the electricity that's generated, I think all of the electricity that's generated in Yankton County goes out of state. So it's going elsewhere on that antiquated grid system. So when you add in the idea of data centers that use 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and other green policies of EV charging stations in the home and, everything electric as much as we can on a system that already in many parts of the country is failing. So what is your position on the whole energy situation? Not just with the data centers, because I think you've covered that you're not about the data centers, but that seems to be because of the noise and some of the other things. We talk about water and electricity when we talk about data centers. I'm looking at Ryan because you get to talk first. But we know that, or we hear that farmers are using too much water and that we're depleting the aquifers and pulling too much money out of or too much water out of the river. We know that the electricity that's generated here is going elsewhere. So what's your stance on what do we do to make sure that we have the electricity we need to function, that the hospital has energy coming in from 4 different directions so nobody has a problem? What are we going to do, and what are your thoughts as a county commissioner on how to manage that?
Okay, well, this is a little more challenging again because we don't really have power as county commission over the energy grid. It's mostly like BY Electric is a cooperative or private companies that manage this. And yes, that is a big concern. Energy grids are not as resilient as they should be, especially when it's not just the data centers, but we talk about this push for electric cars, push for everything being electrified. They want to get rid of gas stoves, they want to get rid of gas furnaces, they want to get rid of all fossil fuels, and they want everything electrified because it's clean and green. But energy is energy. It has to come from somewhere. I have a physics degree. We know that energy cannot be created. It has to be generated. So that is one of the big concerns. Data centers, they do use a lot of power. I literally work in AI. I'm literally working with the latest NVIDIA chip today. And that little thing, it's a little thing, and it only uses 30 watts. But it's putting off, it's 110 degrees. It needs cooling. You need water. Or, even worse, they start to use other coolants. And that's an environmental issue. Yeah, there's a lot here to consider. And that's one of the things that I think we need to really go, again, back to our zoning. We really need to look hard at how we handle things from our utilities. And we also need to look at zoning for data centers and other types of energy use situations.
Well, that is a really intense question for a county commissioner. Full disclosure, want to be truthful as I'm standing up here. My husband works for Northwestern Energy and is a director and oversees the gas and electric areas in South Dakota and Nebraska. So I probably have more talk about electricity in my household than any of the other people up here. And I'm going to tell you, we need to keep communicating with our electric providers to make sure their systems are set up appropriately, that there's some redundancy in the system. So if a certain part goes down, that they're able to get power back into that area. I know Northwestern has done a lot of upgrades in their system over the years. I am not sure how a lot of the other electric providers have done that because I've not had those conversations with them. But I want to say that our PUC in South Dakota, I feel, does a good job of overseeing the needs of the state and regulating that. And so I'm going to put my trust in what the PUC is doing. And I think that if there's something that we as a county commission can do to better position ourselves within the state for additional energy creation, whatever that might be, I would be open to discussing those opportunities.
I think this all comes down to is this is not a question the county commission can fix. What we have to do is get our legislature and peer to get together to do a statewide project, because you're talking something big. It's nothing we as taxpayers can afford in Yankton County on our own. You got to get some money behind whatever idea you think is going to make it work for the public. And that's not just Yankton County. You're going to need Clay County, Turner County, Hutchinson County, Davidson County. You've got to get enough bodies in there to make enough noise, and that goes back to my deal on communications. Tell them what our problem is, tell them we want a solution, and come up with it before the next election.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, our electric grid could use some updates. That's really not something that's in the county wheelhouse, unfortunately. We have approved some mobile stations, one of them out by Utica, another one out by the lake area. And, you know, as houses expand, businesses expand, you got to have more power, right? If you look at an old house built in the 1950s, you were lucky if there was an outlet or two in the rooms. Now look at it. Now everything's electric heat, and that grid has to be built for the high demand, right? When the first hot day comes and everybody turns their air conditioning on, your grid has to be built for that. And, you know, I actually have some experience when the grid doesn't work. When I was in An Umaniyah, Iraq, we were on the Iraqi grid, and we were lucky if we got power sometimes a couple hours a week. And, you know, when the power came on, the first thing you did is you send the guys, go turn the water pump on and pump up the water tank on the roof. And hopefully the power didn't go out in time. And that was the difference between, you didn't get hot showers, of course, but it was the difference between a cold shower and no shower. I think I went about 6 months without a hot shower at all. So it sucks not having power. I know, I've been through it. There's no freezer. You have to cook on a propane stove, and we gotta do what we can to make sure that we aren't living in a third world country. So.
Well, of course, anytime that you're talking about the grid, you are definitely talking about the Public Utilities Commission, which is elected. They are an elected official that serve in Pierre, and they are, there is much discussion about bringing our grid up to date. It is going to take decades. You cannot buy a transmitter. Transmitters are behind, in some places, 5 years. People cannot get transmitters. My son is a power lineman, and they are waiting for transmitters. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Transformers, that's it. Sorry, see, I'm not an electrician. Anyhow, can't get them. And they are working on a specific line from Texas to South Dakota so that we can enhance our grid. I want to get back to, and so that you understand in the state of South Dakota how unfortunately things work. There, of course, the legislators, we create the laws. There are so many appointed officials, bureaucrats in Pierre that are assigned by the governor. And Mr. Cottle, that is part of your problem, is that if you have a division or a department that's not listening to you, we as legislators can go and complain. And on many a times, it is on deaf ears if the governor is not behind your cause. It is something that is unfortunately a broken part of our system. And that is why when you go to the ballot box and you make that decision on who you're going to vote for governor, for legislator, for PUC, for school and public lands, all the different areas throughout the state of South Dakota, you need to be educated and understand who you are putting in office, because they are more than likely, especially the governor, is going to appoint the person in those positions. And if they don't care about the people, they're not going to care about your situation.